Hello everyone, welcome to part 1 of the SketchUp tutorials. So to start out, in the Circle Labs, chances are you'll find, this is where you'll find SketchUp. If you go to the Start button, Design and Engineering, SketchUp 8, this is the version that's installed in Circle Labs at the moment. And not the style builder, but the SketchUp right here. Okay, so this is what it should look like on the Circle Lab computers. Now, alternatively, you can actually install SketchUp on your own computer since it is free. So if you go to the SketchUp website, www.sketchup.com, you can actually download it for free. There are several different versions, but you can say educational, etc., student, blah, blah. So there are two versions, the SketchUp Make and SketchUp Pro. SketchUp Make is the one that is going to be free, and there are not a whole lot of differences, at least modeling-wise. I think basically SketchUp Pro has some import-export functions that SketchUp Make doesn't have, and I think layout, which is sort of for plotting sheets of drawings, that there are some functionalities basically that are more professionally oriented that SketchUp Pro has. Now, it really doesn't make a huge difference as far as you're concerned, because you can do your models and actually work on your models on your own laptop. And then if you really need any of the import-export functions, then go to Circle Lab and use the Pro version there. You might have to downsave in some cases, but that's, I think that's a sort of rather small obstacle in the end. So it's up to you. There are also Mac and Windows versions of it. Just for consistency's sake, I'll be sticking to the Windows version here. Now, one of the things that you will find on the course website is that we will be posting this file, which is a quick reference card. Now, this reference card pretty much actually gives you just about all the commands that SketchUp has. This is the Windows version, this is the Mac version. They're not that much different. It's mostly just swapping the control and the command keys, as always with Mac versions. But so that's sort of a convenient thing to have, right? So as you jump right in, you'll see this is SketchUp Make, and I think you have a couple hours, 8 hours of pro evaluation time if you're doing that first. One thing actually to keep in mind, this is pretty important. Make groups to keep things from sticking together, and we'll actually cover this again. But remember that, okay? That's pretty big thing to kind of keep your things organized. All right. Now, to start out, click on the template, and the SketchUp 8 version might look slightly different, but it should have something similar. And you'll notice that I've highlighted the architectural design feet and inches version just to kind of make sure that you're in the right template. Now, there are a lot of different types. For example, 3D printing obviously needs higher accuracy, therefore inches, millimeters, etc., etc. Interior design these all work. Urban planning works with feet and meters. These are larger units, and these generally basically affect the accuracy of the file. And it's pretty important to get this right. For your purposes, for the most part, you'll be working with this. So click on Start Using SketchUp, and this will pop up. Now, the nice thing is that they already insert a scaly in here for your reference. So that's nice. So you don't know where you are in terms of relative scale. And I believe we can actually, let me see if we can measure. I guess you can't really measure. So that's a 5. If you look at the lower right of the screen, that's a 5'6", roughly 5'6" tall woman. This is the tape measure tool, but don't worry about that just yet. Now your interface would actually not look like this. Your interface, to begin with, let me just sort of clean things out really quick. The first time you're opening this, your interface probably looks like this. And you'll probably just have like this sort of getting started thing on the top somewhere, like that. And that's it. Okay? Now, so I'm going to show you really quickly how to make those UI interface changes and to kind of get you started, right? So just to begin, go to View, the View menu, Toolbars, and you will get this window here. The getting started is this one. So what you can do is actually just toggle these and see what you get. Now, I always just turn on the large tool set because this is basically the majority of what you'll be using. And you can close the getting started, right? Because basically everything is in there. You should probably also turn on layers. Measurements, it's kind of up to you. Section, shadows, and views, styles, blah blah blah. Let's see, and we can always sort of turn on other stuff later if you want to, but you don't need that. So okay, all right. Now these things were originally kind of like floating around, but what we'll do is just sort of arrange them like that, and you can basically drag and sort of dock them into, you know, the top bottom parts, and you can kind of arrange them as how many different sort of layers you're really looking for, right? This, if you kind of drag it to the side, I have two screens, so it's actually not doing it the way I want to, but you should be able to kind of drag it to one side or the other and have it dock in like that. Okay, so probably something like this is good, you know, especially if you're working on your own computer and your settings are consistent. Okay, all right. Now, I do suggest that you guys print out or sort of print out this, right? Print it out so you can refer to it as you're modeling or if you're learning it at first. But it's pretty easy to pick up, especially paying attention to these things, the shortcut keys, to a lot of the commands, right? And a lot of them make sense. Line is L, push and pull is P, which we'll be using a lot. Move is M, rotate is Q here, rectangle R, select is spacebar, etc., etc. All right? So navigating is pretty important. Now, this is the select tool, right? So it's just an arrow, you know, you pick stuff with it. Same as AutoCAD, it also works the same way. There's two different ways of selecting things, right? And I'll show you that in a little bit. Now, the middle mouse scroll button zooms in and out, you know, as almost always. And let me just make something really quickly so we kind of have something to look at here. Okay, middle mouse button scrolls in and out. The right click button, the right mouse button brings up these sort of right click menu options. The left click button just selects things, right? And if you press down the middle mouse, that's basically the sort of rotate or orbit, which there's a tool for it explicitly right here, but basically this is the mouse shortcut for it, right? And then to pan, you have to hold down the shift key and hold down, or you know, basically rotate plus shift plus the shift key is the pan. And you have to get used to this a lot because this will be the main way you kind of navigate you through your file, right? So hold down the shift key, middle mouse button is panning left and right. Okay, so basically through a combination of that, you should be able to kind of get around your scene file your file pretty easily, and just sort of practice that, get used to it a little bit. All right. Now, you'll see that very easy. I drew something really quickly earlier, and that was with the rectangle tool, the R button. And you'll see in the axes, you'll see the blue, which is the Z-axis, the green represents the Y-axis, and the red represents the X. So roughly, in space, it should be looking like that: X, Y, and then Z going this direction, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. It'll sort of affect certain things that you're drawing later on. Now I just did the rectangle tool, and you'll see that I just drew it anywhere, right? And by default, it will kind of put it on what's sort of perceived as the ground, which is the XY plane. So generally, whenever you're drawing something, unless you're snapping to an object that has a specific height, SketchUp will draw it on the ground, basically the XY plane. Now I have a rectangle. I'm going to make it three-dimensional, and that's where this sort of push-pull tool comes in, and the shortcut for it is P. And it's really, really cool because you can basically hover over any sort of plane like this, right? And you can click on it. I just clicked and let go, right? You don't have to hold it down. Click and let go, and then you can basically sort of extrude it this way. Now, on the lower left, notice in the distance, like right here, there's a distance, right? So you can actually do it intuitively, or you can actually specify, I want to do, let's say, 10 feet, and enter, and that's 10 feet, okay? Now what's nice about this is that you can really sort of dynamically edit, and dragging and letting go also works, right? So click, drag, let go, right? Click, drag, let go. Although generally, if you're modeling, something architectural, you want to know what the dimensions are. So for the most part, you'll probably be inputting specific numbers into it, like I just did. Okay. And so this is actually one of the sort of more powerful tools of SketchUp that you'll be using the most, the push-pull tool. So kind of get used to that, the P. Now, the reason I'm making this right now is actually to kind of show you how the selection works. So I'm going to type on spacebar to shift my tool back to the select tool here. So the select tool has several different, let's say, properties, right? So if I'm hovering over, let's say, like this cube or refrigerator or whatever, if I click once on any of the faces, you'll see that it gets this sort of blued out display, like that, like that, like that, okay? That's to show you I have that face selected, okay? If I hover over one of the line segments, I can actually select one of the line segments here, right? And now these vertices don't do anything. So here I can select a specific line segment, and because of that, I'm actually able to snap to an endpoint and then move a specific line segment if I'm trying to do something like that, right? As always, you have undo, right? Undo move, or Control Z, which is undo by default, because I didn't really want that. So single click is to select a single sort of element within it, right? Now double click will select the face and the boundaries around it, right? Now there's going to be a difference. You'll see kind of like how this works further on. And then the third sort of selection method is actually triple click. Now triple click will basically select everything that this is connected to. And so to kind of like get an idea of how that works, let's just do this. I'm sort of like actually overlapping these things a little bit intentionally. And you also see that the color of this is doing weird things because I overlap. Actually, let me do them separately first. And I actually just double clicked on that. So one of the functions of the push and pull command is that, let's say And you can actually do this as well. The push and pull command, if you have things that are sort of parallel to it, it will actually snap to, let's say in this case, the midpoint or the top, right? But let's just say I'm snapping to the midpoint, right? Now, if I'm double clicking a push and pull, that basically tells SketchUp to extrude to the last height that you just did. So I can double click there, and it basically does that same height. Okay. Now, what I want to do, as you'll see, is that if I, for example, double click to select this face, and I try to move it by clicking or typing M and using the move tool, what it does is that, right? It only moves that sort of top part. So that's not really what I want. I want to basically do this crossing select from the upper left to the lower right to move this whole thing. So M, and then I'm just sort of trying to intersect them, right? So the other way you can do is with the select tool from the lower right to the upper left. Now the big difference here, as you'll see, is that the lower right to the upper left crossing selection method will basically select everything that it crosses, right? So in this case, everything that sort of square dotted line boundary intersects, it will select. But you'll see that, like in this case, it selected the faces, but not these edges. Okay, so that's something that can be pretty useful if you're kind of trying to select things together. So I'll just do that. Okay, do it quickly. And let's just pop this out. And you'll see that, okay, when I did that intersection, it automatically sort of made this sort of territory that's sort of in between. And one of the things you can do, especially in sort of situations like this, is that you can actually push and pull. And if you're snapping to the bottom of this area, or basically this hole, and you can probably see it a little better if I do this. Okay. Then it actually hollows it out like that. Okay, so you can actually punch holes through this. Obviously, you can sort of modify this after the fact, and in this case, I probably want to switch to E, the eraser, and delete that out. All right, so now the difference, when I double click, it selects a face. When I triple click, it selects everything that is connected or touching whatever you triple clicked on. All right, so basically, you know, that's something that people forget a lot. So triple click does that, double click does that, and single click is just the face itself. All right, now single click usually is more helpful when you're trying to just move one edge, right, or two of these edges, and you kind of want to move it in a direction. Now be careful with this, because this will really result in some really wonky shapes, right? And those are really hard to edit afterwards. Okay. Now the other sort of nice thing is that SketchUp generally will guess, right? It will try to guess what sort of face you want to draw on. So like this, for example, you know, it basically assumed I was going to trying to draw this on a vertical face. So if you're sort of hovering over a surface, you can very easily, you know, just sort of draw on these vertical surfaces. It also, in many cases, will have some tracking. And so you see, like, if you kind of hover over one of those corners or these sort of vertices, a little sort of line will come out. And if you hold down your shift key, basically that will constrain it to a specific direction. So I can actually get those two to align more or less perfectly. Right? And then I can use the push and pull tool, you know, either to kind of indent this. And you'll see that I'm using snapping, right, to kind of keep them together. Or in this case, let's say if I wanted to punch it all the way through, then I basically, you don't want to do this, right, because this sort of, you know, is the idea of like kind of like a balloon flipping on itself. But what you want to do is basically try to snap it to the back, right, to the back end of it, so here. And that will basically create an opening. And so you can actually modify that a little bit after the fact as well. Okay, so as you can see, this is actually kind of really fun to work with. If I use the line, or this is the line tool, right? The shortcut for it is L. I can actually just start drawing on things. And when you draw things like this from end to end, and you're sort of really drawing it cleanly, making sure things are intersecting or snapping, you'll find that it basically cuts up the surface into two, right? When I'm using the push and pull tool and I hover over a face, you'll see that it tells me, oh, these are two different surfaces now. And so it's easy to kind of go in and edit it. You'll see that because of that, there's actually this sort of line, right? So sometimes you'll have to come in with the eraser and clean out that to make it a solid. Now, one of the sort of side effects of this, so SketchUp is considered a sort of mesh modeler, which means it works with vertices and basically triangles a lot, polygons a lot. So in some cases, it can be a little messy, which means that there actually is a front and a back to every single surface. There's an inside, outside. And when you see this sort of blue, this means that because of the way we made it, this is actually the backside of that surface. So in some cases, you might actually want to flip this. And you can see this if I just say delete this top, right? So you'll see the insides, right, of these surfaces are the white on the front, they're blue on the inside, right? But these two have their sort of outward facing the inwards in our geometry. So you'll probably want to flip that. Now I'm just going to sort of undo that. And what you want to do is like basically right click here on it and say reverse faces. Right, and this guy as well, reverse faces, and that basically will flip the face so the correct side, the outer side, is facing outwards. Right, and that's a sort of easy way to kind of check. That usually happens when you're kind of intersecting things a little bit strangely. Now these two guys aren't really intersecting, and so we'll actually, and you can tell right by the way this sort of intersection is displayed. Usually if there is an intersection, there is a hard line, right? There's an edge that's drawn. If it's not intersecting correctly, or if it's not considered that type of intersection, then it doesn't show up as a line. Okay, so that's just like two surfaces intersecting, sort of overlapping, but they're not actually interacting as geometry. And if I just sort of delete this, you'll see this. Basically, that's what it's doing. And so in most cases, you probably want to avoid this. It sort of depends. Okay, so now if we look at this intersection, one of the things sometimes I'll do is actually, if it's really simple, what I'll do is I'll just use the line tool and kind of go back. And it can be kind of finicky sometimes, but I'll just sort of go back and retrace them to actually substantiate the intersection like that. And you can actually just hide, faces or things temporarily just to see what's going on the inside. And in this case, I'll just sort of delete these parts, line segments. Oops, I think I lost that one. So no, it's really not necessary, at least at this stage. But I just like to kind of clean out the model. Make sure things that should be connected are connected, ones that aren't are. Get what you've hidden back. You can just go to Edit, Unhide, Last, or All. Unhide all just sort of shows everything that you've hidden at that point. Okay, so this is just a really simple beginning, and we'll start to kind of get into more specific as we go along. But just sort of try to get used to pushing and pulling, moving things around a little bit, and how this sort of whole process works. All right, so we'll see you in the next video.